Good morning, it's October 20th. This is to my liberal friends. Can House Republicans find a way out of the impasse they've cornered themselves into? It was ridiculous to oust Kevin McCarthy from the Speaker's chair, and now the right wing of the caucus has no solution. In the aftermath of taking Kevin McCarthy out, the caucus held an internal debate, and Steve Scalise appeared to get a majority of the caucus to support him to ascend to the Speaker's office. But he could not get the magic number of 2017 because the right wing of the caucus refused to support him. Eventually, Scalise ended up dropping out when he realized he could not reach the magic number of 2017. That left Jim Jordan, an original co-founder of the Freedom Caucus, to put his name back in contention. But the moderates in the party are still smarting from the 8 members led by Matt Gaetz, who teamed up with all of the Democrats to oust McCarthy. Well, Jordan fell well short of the 217 on the first ballot and then lost votes on the second ballot. His supporters have said they will continue to push forward, hoping that somehow they can change minds. But I don't see that happening at this point in time. And that leaves us pretty much at a stalemate with the Republican caucus. Unless they can find a compromise candidate that can reach the number 217, they may have to adopt another strategy. One solution would be to grant additional powers to the acting Speaker, Patrick McHenry. But under such an arrangement, the Democrats would agree to allow McHenry to bring certain bills to the floor, specifically those would include a vote on aid to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, as well as a funding stopgap ahead of the November 17 deadline for shutting the government down. This concept has been put forward by moderates within both parties. Maine Representative Jared Golden is now openly calling to increase McHenry's powers, at least to avoid a government shutdown. Under such an agreement, McHenry could bring up bills that were not partisan and ones that could easily pass the House. And some Democrats have indicated they support the idea, although they're still pushing for a deal with Republicans in exchange for votes. What they want is concessions. Exact support is difficult to gauge since they don't have a concrete proposal to put forward at this time. And absent such an agreement, it appears that Democrats will remain united behind leader Hakeem Jeffries and not provide Republicans any votes to elect a Speaker. And once again, you have those in the Freedom Caucus, the same idiots that voted with Democrats to take McCarthy out of the Speaker's office. They've said if Republican centrists move to empower McHenry with Democratic help, conservatives would stop voting in favor of rules, essentially meaning they'd block all legislation on the floor. Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, a centrist known for making deals with Democrats, summed it up pretty carefully when he said, quote, "The reason we're in this mess right now are 8 people in the Republican conference and 208 in the Democratic conference. Ask them that question. Are they willing to undo what they did and actually make the House functional again?" Fitzpatrick's telling the truth. It was these 8 guys plus the Democrats. They all share the blame. Well, I took the opportunity to call the offices of 4 of the members who voted with Democrats to oust McCarthy. I asked them, of course I'm only speaking to staff, exactly what they thought the end game was when they aligned their interests with the Democratic caucus. Who do they think would become Speaker? It was obvious to me that all they did was roil the waters with the Republican caucus to the point that nobody can get to the magic number of 2017. Now, I understand exactly what Matt Gaetz was doing. He wanted McCarthy to end the ethics investigation into him, something McCarthy could not do, but I cannot fathom what the other 7 thought they were accomplishing. Maybe they had this idea that someone from the Freedom Caucus would become the Speaker, like Jim Jordan. If they thought this, then they had no idea how much the majority of the caucus was angry about their stupid actions. Jim Jordan is not going to be the next Speaker. He's losing votes every time they vote on the floor. The moderates within the party are still seething about what the 8 idiots did by siding with Democrats. They're not going to elect someone that owes total fealty to Donald Trump and was a leader among the election deniers after the last election. Even Carrie Lake has dropped that talking point after announcing her candidacy for the Senate in Arizona. And this morning, after failing to get the necessary votes for the 3rd time, Jordan is out as candidate for the office of Speaker. He tried convincing some of the New York delegation by promising to raise the state and local tax deduction, but that effort failed. So I don't know who will become Speaker because the caucus seems to be split beyond repair. The 8 who brought this on, the Republicans should be looking in the mirror and asking themselves, why? Why did I do this? They're the ones that are to blame for this mess, and yet they strut around thinking they're somehow important. On another thing today, the guilty plea of Sidney Powell is not good news for Donald Trump. This is a second plea deal by those indicted in Georgia. Ms. Powell pled guilty to 6 misdemeanor counts of conspiracy to commit intentional interference of election duties. She's going to pay a fine, get 6 years of probation, and have to write a letter of apology to the people of Georgia. This is important because Ms. Powell was the key person in the election fraud claims being espoused by Donald Trump. Among the Trump fanatics, the election fraud enthusiasts, she was known as the person that, quote, released the Kraken. She would produce unassailable evidence that the election in Georgia was rigged. Of course, like Adam Schiff, when he was claiming Russian collusion, she never produced that evidence, and her guilty plea is not good news for former president. I'm a Republican, but it's time we move on and rebuild this party based on the issues that we know we can win. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, recommend it to your friends. If you have a comment, I'll listen.